Welcome to myFace, myStory, voices from the craniofacial community, with your host, Dina Zuckerberg.
Hello and welcome. You are tuning into myFace, myStory, voices from the craniofacial community. If you're watching on YouTube, click subscribe now so that you'll never miss a future episode. I am Dina Zuckerberg, Director of Family Programs at myFace. I was born with a cleft lip, a hearing loss, and no vision in my left eye, but it has never stopped me from doing anything I've ever wanted to do in my life. myFace, myStory is about people like us being seen and heard, about sharing stories within the craniofacial community and with others. I am so excited to be speaking with Iva Ballou. Iva Ballou is a cleft confidence coach and transformational speaker who uses her gift of speaking and coaching as a tool to boost confidence in those with facial differences. She is the founder of Real Sophisticated Joy, a company that empowers women and girls affected by cleft and craniofacial differences to pivot from contempt and confidence in their journey so that they can live a life filled with real sophisticated joy. Iva is the author of Bully Who, a how-to guide to recognize who's bullying who and who you are bullying. Welcome, Iva, and thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Dana, and thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here and for myFace to have me. I really do appreciate that.
Thank you. I'm really excited to speak with you today because I feel like we have so much in common in
I
our stories
know.
and our journey.
I can't. I'm excited about this conversation. I'm trying to calm it down. Nothing but joy over here right now.
I like that. So to kick us off, can you share with us about your craniofacial difference, both cleft lip and palate and Peter's anomaly, for those who may
Yes.
have never heard of it?
Yes. So I was born what is called Peter's anomaly, which means that my left eye, I am blind. Actually, what you see in front of you now is a cosmetic lens. If I were to take out my contact, what it would look like is the cornea, it's not fully developed, so I cannot see out of that eye. If I were to close my right eye, the only thing that I can kind of see is a little bit of light
Same here.
and but that's it. And then also for my cleft, I was born with a complete bilateral cleft lip and palate. So all the way up to the nose, inside of my mouth, I did not have a palate, and the outer lips on both sides. If you look closely, you can still see some of the scarring on the front of on the top of my lip. So that was my journey of having a cleft and Peter's anomaly.
Yeah, so I feel like we have that in common. So as I mentioned earlier, I also can't see out of my left eye and wear a cosmetic lens to look like my right eye. So we have that in common.
And then
Um,
I have to tell you, like that
yeah.
really was touched me because I've never,
Mhm.
prior to this moment, never met someone else who also couldn't see out of their left eye because of their cleft.
Yeah, same here. Same here. So how many surgeries did you have for your cleft lip and palate and Peter's
Oh,
anomaly?
so quite a few. I had my first one when I was 6 months. That was like the recommended cleft story. Then I know I had another one around 1 years old, to kind of meld everything together. Had multiple rhinoplasties, and that honestly was more so because of me searching for perfection. I truly thought that if I had one more surgery that I could get rid of my cleft because I felt a lot of shame and felt lonely because of it. I had the precious bone graft surgery where they take, bone marrow from your hip and place it into your
Mhm.
mouth so it can gel together. I did have the jaw surgery of like reconstructing my jaw. So my mouth was wired shut for 3 months. That one was a fun one.
Mhm.
So there were countless surgeries. But it was really funny because even though I had all these surgeries, these was going on, I've kind of always been a confidence coach because I would be the girl in the hospital coaching other kids like it's going to be okay and this is what you do, and just trying to make sure that they felt okay, which is so crazy because like you're going in for the same thing. But I've always been doing that. I've always been trying to help others feel confident in themselves.
That's great. I probably could have used that because I was a terrible patient, I think. I never liked the surgeries, and I was always a mess before I was going to have surgery. So I probably could have used someone like you in my life.
Looking at it now, I know that I ran my mom ragged because it was, again, because I was so trying to get to perfection, I was willing to do whatever. I was definitely an all in type of person. So I wanted to know everything, but I was very much like, we can do it. Even to dragging my mom into trying to see what we could do about me being blind. Like, or we talked about the fact that we both have small tear ducts. I even looked into,
Yeah.
is there a way that we can make that bigger so I would no longer tear? At the time, modern technology was not up to speed to do it, but I, yeah. So I would have definitely been your helper friend that would have been like, we got this, it's okay. And maybe part of it was me trying to just make sure that I was okay too.
Right. Yeah. I would imagine that would be the case.
Yeah.
So did you ever meet children with facial differences such as cleft lip and palate growing up? Did you meet others like you?
So I met a couple, but not many. Most of us know in the Cleft community, we have our Cleft team, and with your Cleft team, you'll have one day a year where you'll see all of your doctors.
Mhm.
So for me here in Jacksonville, Florida, where I was born and raised, we had the wonderful Nemours at Wolfson's Children's Hospital. And so that's where I would go, and I would see one or two, but never had like a connection. And honestly, something that I have to mention is also being an African American woman. It wasn't until I was in my 30s that I met another African American woman with the cleft.
Mhm.
So I really did for a long time feel like, oh, I'm the only one with this. Well, why me?
Right. Which actually leads me to my next question. Did you ever question why I was born this way? Why was I born with a cleft and Peter's anomaly? How did it affect your self-esteem and your confidence growing up?
Oh, the question. I always question that. Growing up, I really struggled with that. And to the point that one time my father caught me praying to God because I was just like, God, like, whatever you need me to do, I will do it. Like, it was a routine thing that I would do when I would come home from school. And he told me, he was like, God had to give you something to slow you down. And that made me very angry at my father and with God. But as I've grown older, and now doing what I do, I completely understand. But as a child, my cleft, it became bigger than me. I allowed my cleft to become bigger than me. It was my whole identity. And so much that I often talk about that I named my cleft. Her name is Big Bertha. And
Oh,
Big
wow.
Bertha was like really mean to me. Big Bertha was really mean to me and always told me my limits. And so it was just, I had a great childhood, but I had a hard childhood at the same time. I don't know how else to explain that, but it was because of my cleft.
Right. So how did bullying impact your life and your sense of self-worth when you were growing up?
So the story that is most prevalent to me when I think about bullying, I was in the fifth grade. One thing that I always commend my parents was, even though I had a cleft, they were very adamant that, I had a cleft, but the cleft did not have me. And so they wanted
Right.
me to live a normal childhood, which I'm very appreciative. They taught me about advocating for myself. But my mother had this dream of all her kids were going to learn how to play an instrument. So I played the flute, which is very impressive considering the cleft, but I played the
Yeah.
flute and I was in the band. And so I was coming back from a band recital. And it is something that it's almost like I'm still that little girl. There are moments where I'm still that little girl because as I'm coming back from the band recital, one of a classmate, he's walking ahead of me, and there is two like second or third grade classes outside of the hallway, and they're lined up. And as I began to walk down the hall, they started laughing and poking and like just saying hurtful things. And I'm a child, right? And so the natural child
Yeah.
response is to cry and run away. But I can remember that same confidence, that same fight said to me, hey, you can cry once you get out of this, but right now you will not cry. You will not cry. And so, like, literally, I braced myself and I walked forward. And it wasn't until I think I waited like 2 days before I told my mom because I was hurt and but I felt shame because it's like I had no control over this.
Right.
I had no control over that. So that is a defining moment. But I've also been able to, as I've become of age, look at the pride and the joy of that. Like you made it through that. You made it through that and you held your head high. So there is a silver lining in that because I think it showed my strength.
Right. It's so interesting that the defining moment for me,
Mhm.
one of the defining moments was in fifth grade too. And I
Yeah.
remember this girl picking on me. Like I was on the school bus and I was going to her house, no less.
Mm.
And she was picking on me and they were playing games like, tapping me on the shoulder, you turn around, no one's there. And they were doing all these things. And then we went to her house and it was like nothing had happened. And we sort of played together. It was so crazy to me.
That
And, and I remember, again, not saying anything to my parents. And I remember sitting on the bed and just telling my mom what had happened. It was like, because I was that child. It didn't really, I was
Mhm.
kind of like you talked about, I was sort of stoic and strong and I
Mhm.
didn't cry and I didn't show any
Mhm.
of that. And I think fifth grade, it can be hard. I mean, it's that fifth, sixth,
It
fourth,
is
fifth,
just the
sixth,
weirdest
yeah,
age. It is the
it's
weirdest age
for
because
anybody.
for
I think fifth
anybody,
grade.
for anybody. And I don't know about you, Dina, but at that time, like I also started to develop womanly. So body wise, it just was a lot. I can just remember it was a lot. But that is a moment that, and I can relate about having friends, quote, quote, friends, who would make the joke about, oh, can you see me? Can you see me now?
Mm,
And it's like, as a child, you kind of laugh at it, but as an adult, you're like, that wasn't kind. that
no,
was that was
no,
kind.
it was not. Uh, so we have a comment from somebody saying, thank you. This is so amazing. I'm so glad I saw the post and subscribed. I can relate as a parent and now as an advocate as well. Thank you for doing this. You're helping so many parents like myself too.
Well,
So
you're
it's nice.
welcome, Elsie. I hope I said that correctly. You're
Yeah.
welcome.
Yeah.
You're
It's nice
welcome.
to have a parents on it as well. And we have another comment from somebody. Iva, my daughter Miranda had that jaw surgery as well. So,
She's a trooper then. It is an intense surgery. They
yeah,
it's like
I had jaw surgery too. I remember
you
I
did.
couldn't eat I
Yes.
wasn't wires shut, but I remember I couldn't eat for like 8 weeks, anything solid. So yeah, it's a
Nothing
tough
solid.
surgery.
All it is liquid. And I was talking to someone, and it's not often talk about the emotional part that goes along with that because you can't laugh, you can't sing, your voice is gone, and it can take an emotional toll on you.
Absolutely. So we talked a little bit about this
Mhm.
before this, but you talk about how you were not only bullied, but that
Mhm.
you bullied others. Why do you think you did that?
So, as I mentioned, because I had allowed Big Bertha to become this bigger thing than me, and so she was already bullying me, I like to say, of like telling me all these negative things, pretty much anything that I had ever heard about me, she would just replay back on a continuous loop. And as the saying goes, a hurt person hurts people. And so I felt like I had to hurt other people before they could hurt me. As far as, I always felt like they were going to make a comment about my cleft and they were going to try to pick on me. And so, at a certain point, you get tired of being the victim. And that is why I say that, like, I wasn't a physical bully. No, that's not me. I just know that I was not kind because I wasn't kind to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the point of the book, is just making sure, are you being kind to everyone, including yourself? Because people don't often realize, like, you can be a bully to your own self. And I don't want people to do that. That's one thing that I coach my clients on, is making sure, like, always asking that question of who actually said that?
Mm.
Who actually said that comment to you?
Yeah, I
It
feel
was,
like I was gonna say, I feel
yeah,
like we don't always take into account the bully. We always focus on the victim of the
mhm,
bullying, but I always feel like there's a story behind the person who's
absolutely,
bullying, and there's
absolutely.
a reason they're doing that. And it's, maybe it's their low self-esteem,
Mhm,
or they, they need to exert a little power over somebody else. But I
mhm,
think we should focus on that too. I think
mhm.
they have
And
their own story.
I mentioned that in the book that especially for children, a lot of times parents can start to see that as a sign. Like if my child is being labeled the bully, oftentimes they are experiencing something themselves. And that's a great way to be okay, we need to check in and see what's going on because they're seeing something wherever, but they're seeing something that is making them display that same thing. So that's what children do. They just imitate. And so that is always a great starting point. So if you see that in your child, like, okay, let's have a conversation.
Absolutely. We actually have a comment here from Bella. She says, "Love seeing both of you. So much to share. Enjoy supporting you. You shine in our special community."
Oh, Lucia, hi.
Very nice.
Mm.
Uh, so, uh, so tell me a little bit more about your book, Bully Who, and some of the messages that you impart in it.
So Willie Who was at the very beginning of like the Cleft confidence coaching. And I felt like I had to purge that last part and get those things off. And also the whole reason why I'm doing this is to help others. And it was at the height of the pandemic. And I noticed that a lot of my clients were starting to experience a lot more online bullying because that was where everything was. And I had to find a way to convey like this is how you can help yourself. And so that is how the book came about. Um, but with it, I found that it did a little bit more healing for me because, as you
Mm,
saw in the book, I actually apologized to someone who I felt that I failed to defend as a child, you know, and making sure to make those amends however I could.
right. It's so interesting. So a few years ago, I actually had somebody reach out to me,
Mhm,
who I went to elementary school, and she said that if I was that person, I'm sorry I did that.
mhm,
And I will say it really, in some ways, it took me back because I
mhm,
never expected that, but it was
mhm,
actually really nice to have
mhm,
somebody at least acknowledge that,
mhm.
um, because at some point you start to think,
Is this really
are
happening? Did it
you
really
exactly,
happen? Yes.
exactly, and then another experience where, I had somebody who bullied me, and I thought, "Oh, maybe one day," it was someone in camp, and I thought one day, "Oh, I'll find her
Mhm,
and reach out to her." But as soon as I did find her, because social media and all of that
yeah,
really helps, I decided not to write
mhm,
her a letter because I thought one day I'd write her a letter, just
right.
but never did. But I think, so I like that you said that just now, that you acknowledged that and you wanted
I
to.
I feel like you have to, even if, especially the girl that I referenced in the book, if she never read the book or it may not even be needed, but I have to acknowledge and accept my part in things. That is like my really big thing is like I call it like the AC. And part of that is acknowledging and accepting in anything. And I had to acknowledge these are my feelings. This is how I felt. And I had to accept that or acknowledge and accept this is the wrong that I did, even though I might have been justified because of my club. It didn't make it right.
Right.
It didn't make it right.
Yeah.
And so, in anything that I have done, if I have been a bully or if I was unkind to someone, I apologize. I want that to be known. I apologize because it wasn't right.
Right. I agree.
Mm,
So did you want to be normal, to fit in, to be like the other kids? I mean, I remember
mm,
on my birthday when I was a child, when I blew out the candles, wishing I could look like the other kids, so it'd be a little easier for me. Can you talk about that desire to fit in and how you handled it?
Dina, we've done the same wish. Either my birthday or at Thanksgiving. I don't know if you ever heard like the turkey has like a wishbone.
Yes.
That would be my wish. Anytime that there was something about a wish, I would always wish to be normal. The number of surgeries that I had, it was all in this quest to be normal because I felt that if I could be normal, then the shame would go away, the loneliness would go away. Because again, it was funny. I had great friends growing up. I did
Yeah.
have great friends, but there was still a part of me that just felt othered and wrong and shame. And to constantly carry that, I don't think that people understand the stress of that. Um, and it's funny to now be on this side with my clients, and I can see that they're still carrying it. And it's like you have to let that go. And I know that's hard. That's a hard ask. But when you do it, it lightens yourself up, and you're able to find your joy in the situation, in the hard things.
Yeah. It's a journey. I mean, I think I'm
Mhm.
still working some of that out. But and we talked a little bit about that when we
Yeah,
spoke earlier. I think I mean, I admire you for um,
thank you.
doing the hard work to get to
Mhm.
where you are now, because
Yeah.
I think it is work to
Mhm.
build that confidence and to realize that it's just a part of you. It's not all of you. The cleft or whatever the craniofacial difference
Mhm.
is. So I just want to say that I do admire you for putting that work in, and I think and I think maybe I'm still a work in progress. I guess we all are to some
We all
degree, right?
are.
We
We
all
all
are.
are. Because I don't want it to seem like the reason why I call it finding your joy or real sophisticated joy is because the real is there are still days like earlier this morning started off a little rough for me, and that's normal. That is
Right.
normal. But I have a vow that I have taught with my clients and I have taken on for myself. And one of the lines in there, it says that I give myself grace to start anew the next day if today I'm unkind to myself.
I love that.
And like it gives myself, okay, you know what? Today was a rough day. That's life. Life's whole goal is meant to be tough. But the joy in that and the sophistication of that is me knowing that I can always go again tomorrow or in this moment right now. I found my joy. I have found
Right.
my joy with Dina, sharing our shared experiences. I don't have to stay in that moment. And I
Right.
think that's the whole thing of with having a cleft or a craniofacial difference. It is very easy to just stay in that moment. And I get it because I've been there, but you cannot stay there.
Yeah.
You can't stay here.
Yeah.
You
This
can't
is
stay
so
here.
true. And I'm learning that. And I do find as I've gotten older is I realize that much more. And I also think, and we talked a little bit about this, I think that I wouldn't be the person I am if not for
Mm-hmm.
my experiences. And
Yep.
so I don't regret them at all. I just find sometimes it's harder to, and I guess it's true for anybody, right? I
Yeah,
mean, you have good days and bad days. It's just life.
absolutely. And Dina, absolutely. Because again, I think about my dad's words about he had to give you something to slow you down. I'm so glad that he did. Like you, I don't think that I would even like Iva Ballou without the cleft. I think that she would be
Hmm.
a very totally different person and would not be as like kind or being as accepting of things. And I often like laugh and say that people with clefts or craniofacial or any type of disability really should put on their resume that, we have a certain level of resiliency that no other person has. There are certain skill sets that we are given innately, and you just have to take that on as your power.
Right.
You have to take that on as your power.
Yes. I, I agree. I love that. We actually have a comment from Teresa. You girls are amazing. My daughter is 7 years old. I pray that she can handle herself. She was born with Apert syndrome, and I know she has a long way to go. And then
Teresa, we
she
can
also
definitely
said,
connect.
you girls give me hope." So
Just saying, we can definitely connect. She's gonna make it through. We're strong girls. She's gonna make it through.
I agree, absolutely. And then we also have a comment from Vicky saying, "Beautiful vow to make to yourself." She loves what you said. So, so I know, and I can relate to this. I know there was a point in your life where you tried to run away, to
Mhm.
hide, to shrink yourself. Can you share a little bit about that time in your life?
I would say that that time was more like my 20s again. So the last surgery that I had was in 2002, 2003. So I'm like 21, 22 in that age range, or maybe at the most 24. And so it was kind of at that moment where I realized, okay, the cleft isn't going anywhere, right? So it was like, I just won't acknowledge it. I would not acknowledge it. I did not really like to take pictures. I didn't really like, even with my contact, I would never go outside without it. And it was just, I really felt like if I didn't talk about it, maybe that would go away because I had never
Mhm.
tried that before.
Right.
Because again, 18 and younger, you have your cleft team, so you're always being reminded of your cleft. But I was an adult now, maybe this will work. And it didn't work. It did not work. And what I found out is I was becoming bitter because it was like festering inside of me. And I don't think that people who know me like, well, you didn't seem that way. And I was like, yes, I was not bitter to the outside people, but to myself.
Mm-hmm.
I was not, there was something that was missing, like joy, true joy was missing from me. And so when I turned 28, I was really like, okay, we got to make a change because 30 is coming. I'm a planner by nature. And so I was just like, I want to do 30 right, whatever that meant to me. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, that meant I had to acknowledge and handle this cleft for once and for all. And part of it was that exercise of how do you want to be defined? How do you want to be defined? Because prior to that, if you would have asked me to define myself, I definitely would have said I was the girl with the cleft.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, well, that label no longer works for me. And I wrote out the 3 words were real, sophisticated, and joy. Okay. I like that. That's how I want people to experience me. That is what I believe is me. That's truly who I am. So at that point, I like to say I introduced myself to my new self, which is Ava Taylor. So there was Big Bertha, and Big Bertha was very mean. Ava Taylor showed me what it's possible.
Wow.
She showed me what is possible if you would just talk to yourself in a loving way, and if you would get out of your own way. And it was almost like the Grinch, how his heart grew. It was like my confidence grew, and I started doing things. And it was, as you said, Dina, it was hard work, but I started doing things that if if Big Bertha said run away from it, no, I'm going to go forward. If Big Bertha said I couldn't do it, I'm going to at least try. And it was just those little practices that really helped build up my confidence. And I love shifting that into my clients and seeing them do things that they wouldn't do before. They wouldn't do that before.
Right.
Even small things of like wearing red lipstick for the first time, and because she didn't want to show, like, bring attention to her scars, and it's like she looked gorgeous.
So
She looked,
funny you say that because literally before I was coming on tonight, I was putting lipstick on, and I get so I was like, part of me doesn't want to
mm-mm.
put too much emphasis on my lips because I don't want to draw attention to it. It's so interesting that you just brought that up because
Wear the lipstick. It is you, and you are proud. Like, and also, I have to say, look at all that you have accomplished. You are doing amazing work for the class. You need to draw attention to that.
thank you. I
You
know.
need
I think I need to become one of your clients.
to, what? I would love to have you, at least you can audit a class, and so you can see it is. I know that we're gonna set that up. You're gonna audit one, and so because again, Dina, I have watched from the sidelines because I'm always like, when I'm not running my race, I'm like, yes, yes, Dina, wear it with pride.
Thank you. Thank
Wear it
you.
with pride.
Yeah. I'm doing it more and more. I really am.
I
Like,
love
but
it.
it's so interesting listening to you because I keep thinking we're like kindred spirits. Like,
Yeah.
I would have loved to have had you as my friend or have known you when all of this was going on because I think it
Well,
really would have
you
made
have
such
me
a
now,
difference.
Dina. Okay, that
Thank you. Thank you.
you, yep. I am. I'm here to be a resource. I tell people that all the time. Even if I cannot be your coach, because sometimes it doesn't work out, I'm still here to be a resource. I'm here to be a resource of joy. That is what. That is it.
So we actually have a comment from Anne, and she says, "I didn't even feel remotely comfortable discussing my difference until my 40s." And
Yeah.
I think it is. It takes a while. It's a journey, and it
Mhm.
doesn't happen overnight. And I think as we get older and as we mature and we are further away from those childhood days, I think it does get easier. I think as we get older.
Yeah, it does. It does because you become more settled,
Right.
and the more that you build up your confidence, it's like, okay, I'm different. Okay. And again, it's a weird thing of I'm glad that I am. I'm I'm glad. I know that might sound hard to believe or a stretch, but I'm glad that I am it because I know I can help someone. I can help someone. And I think, they say that that's one of the famous quotes is like, that's your payment for living on this earth is helping someone else. So I'm here.
Definitely. So, what are some of the tools you have to help people with craniofacial differences and cleft to find their own joy? I mean, we've talked a little bit about it, but what are some of the
So obviously the coaching, which is one thing that I love, but then also little things that like for my social media, always showing them joy, telling them little tips because one of them I had said to Dina before is daily dancing. I know people were like, what? But just daily taking 5 minutes to move because also I think emotion stays in motion and the more that you can propel yourself and dancing is a way to do it. Even on those sad days, even on those days where it's like, I'm really not feeling, you have to have little, I call them cheat codes of things that you know that you can do. Something else that I always talk about is for us with cleft and craniofacial differences, have responses prepared for when someone is saying something that is like, oh, or if they ask the wrong way. I have 3 different responses on deck so that way, if they ask me in a nice way, I can go into maybe educating them and about how I was born and what a cleft palate is and what a cleft is and all of these things. If maybe they ask at the wrong time, hey, yes, I do.
right?
Or if they just, we all know they can ask in a rude way. I don't want to talk about that right now. And because I have them so ingrained that it no longer deregulates me. It no longer is like a shock. And that is something that I'm always talking about. There are little things that you can do to build up your confidence and for you. And even Dina, as we talked about with wearing the lipstick, that is something that I talk about as far as like people don't realize how beauty and fashion can go along with confidence. Exactly.
Exactly.
I just see somebody said, wear your lipstick, you're beautiful. And that little thing of wearing your lipstick, it will transform you through that day. And for the guys, I often say maybe you know that this is a color that looks really good on you. Everybody has a color. Everybody has a color that really looks good on you. You wear that color, you wear it with pride, and it just, you know, because if you like how you feel and you feel confident, no one else can take that away from you.
Right. And people will see that. People
Mhm.
will see that confidence,
Correct.
and
Yeah,
it's almost contagious at that point.
it
Like
is.
when you're confident, you're giving the other person that confidence too.
Absolutely. And even though I feel funny about this comment where people are like, oh, I can't even tell that you have.
Mm,
But they always follow it up because you're just so confident. And I think that's what it is. When you are presenting in that way, you can't help but see that.
right.
And it's like, I've had to reflect and I was like, you know what? I could see that. Before, all they saw was my cleft because that's all that I was projecting back to them anyway. So now I'm projecting my realness, my sophistication, but most importantly, my joy, you can't help but get that back.
Right. And I will say, I do love to dance, and I will do that once in a while. I'll just turn on the music if I'm stressed or I'm whatever that is. I'll put on the music, and it's such a great. It shifts your mood, and
All you need is 5 minutes. 5 minutes, a thing in motion stays in motion. And so I see that you put up a playlist. Find that song, especially if you can find one that's 5 minutes long, it's perfect. And before any moment, or even after, let's say someone does say something rude, don't let that ruin your day. Put that song on and sing it out, dance it out, and you'll be amazed how it's like it just flutters away. Because
yeah,
that's ultimately what I want. You can't stop other people, but you can control how you react.
right. It's great. It's great advice, and it's really true. So, what's one piece of advice you would give to your younger self, knowing what you know now?
Oh, I would love to talk to young Iva. I would. But I think what I would tell her the most is relax. Relax and sit back and enjoy the show, because she would be completely amazed as to where I am now. I'm still amazed sometimes. 5 years ago, you could not have told me this is what I'm doing, that I am every day. How I live, how I get paid is through coaching for cleft affected individuals and other people who don't have confidence. So I would tell her that it's going to be okay. I wouldn't tell her how, because she needs to experience it, and because I don't want to change any of it. But I would just tell her to relax and enjoy the show, and to remember real sophisticated joy. I know myself. I was like, "What does that mean?" And I was like, "Nope, can't tell you. Just know real sophisticated joy."
I love that. We talked a little bit about this, but when I think where I am now, and I think, I mean, I never could have imagined 10 years ago that I would be doing what I'm doing now. And just hearing you say that, I think it's so true. Like, and I, I wish I could go back in time and redo things, because I think, and with a different frame of mind, because I think it could have been so much different.
But would it be?
Knowing what I know now,
But
you know?
would it see? And that's the thing. I think that's why I always say I wouldn't, because it's different better.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
different better, and I don't know, because what if different mean I'm not sitting here in this moment.
But
I don't
and
know.
maybe we wouldn't be doing what we're doing, both of us.
Exactly.
It's
And
just
that
that
is why,
not
again, I say no. I'm glad, because someone's going to be helped because of this. Or
right.
maybe not right now, but they might find it in a month of time. And so if I wasn't there, and I know that's a weird way to think of, again, 10-year-old Iva would be amazed. And I'm sure 10-year-old Dina would be like, are you serious?
Yeah, never. I never could have imagined that then. Yeah.
So
So,
I guess that would be the last thing I would say. Be open. Just be open.
mhm.
Be open. Because I will say, my mother had told me when I was younger that this is what I should be doing. And again, I was running from it, because again, that would mean that I would have to address my cleft.
Right. So we have a comment from Kathy. She says, "Hi there. Love the comment made earlier. We are all a work in progress. Thanks again." She's from Windsor, Ontario, Canada. So,
Hello, Canada. Thank you for
yeah.
joining.
So, before we wrap up, I have what kind of difference would it have made for you to have had that community of support, such as that offered by myFace or other patient organizations when you were growing up, do you think?
That would have been amazing. Absolutely amazing. Just to have, again, I never take away from the friends that I grew up with. They were great, but there was a part of me that they could not relate to. They tried, but they couldn't relate to. So to be able to have other children my own age, and more importantly, to see other adults like that were moving and operating in this world, and had their own success and had their own confidence, would have been extremely beneficial, because even to the point sometimes I feel like I'm winging it, because I never had someone show me what it could be. So, and I feel like that's what I'm trying to do for the other generation behind me, so
Mhm.
they can see like, okay, this is possible. You don't have to, you don't have to live in shame, because that's what and if I would have known and knew where I could go and had someone else that I could speak to, I that would be the only thing that I would say I would take that to be different, because I think some healing could have happened earlier on.
Right. Yeah. And I think I just had a thought, but anyway, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I absolutely. So I just want to say that it has been, Iva, it's been such a pleasure to talk with you and to hear about your journey. Because as I always say, there is power in the shared story and knowing you're not alone. And some of what you talked about today certainly resonated with me. The hiding, the losing your voice, and then the realization and acceptance that your facial difference is just a part of who you are, and finding your voice and finding that real sophisticated joy. So thank you for reminding me that I am not alone in my journey and that I can find joy in it. And I just feel like we're now kindred spirits for,
We definitely are.
yeah,
Giving you a virtual hug. I believe in virtual hugs if you accept it. Uh,
I, I take it. Thank you.
Perfect.
And I
And
give
then I
them
just
that.
want to say thank you for having me. And thank you for sharing again about the eye. I've never met someone else who could not see out of their left eye for the cleft. So it really means a lot. And again, like it's a journey, because now I'm 33. And again, just now meeting someone else with that shared experience, and didn't realize I needed it.
Yeah, so powerful, right?
Yeah.
And really, I mean, so much of what we talked about is so much what I've been thinking about lately. So
Mhm.
thank you. Thank you
You're
for that
welcome.
gift.
You're welcome.
And I just want to say, I hope everyone listening today will check out your website,
Yeah.
realsophisticatedjoy.com, to learn more about your work. So thank you so much
Thank
for,
you. Thank you for having me. And myFace as well. Thank you for having me.
and for giving so much of yourself today and every day. So thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
I'm hopeful that these conversations can help others better, while also creating a kinder world for all people with craniofacial differences. For more than 70 years, myFace has been dedicated to changing the faces and transforming the lives of children and adults with facial differences by providing access to holistic, comprehensive care, education, resources, and support that pave the way for better outcomes. To learn more, please visit myface.org. If you would like to learn more about the myFace support groups so that you can connect with others in the craniofacial community, please visit myface.org/online-groups. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to myFace's YouTube channel to catch future live broadcasts of myFace, myStory. You can also listen to the audio recording on your favorite podcast app, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, and iHeartRadio. If you'd like to receive email reminders of new episodes, sign up at myface.org/mystory. That's myface.org/mystory. Thank you for joining us for this episode of myFace, My Story, and I hope you will join us for our Season 2 launch in June, when we will be speaking with Rashira Dobson. That's it for tonight's episode of myFace, My Story. But remember, it takes courage to share your story, so be brave and speak out. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Paul, the Executive Director of myFace. myFace is a nonprofit organization dedicated to changing the faces and transforming the lives of children and adults with facial differences. We do this through various programs and events such as the Transforming Lives educational webinar series, Races for Faces, the Wonder Project, and the groundbreaking myFace, myStory conversational series. You can learn more about all of these on our website at myface.org. If you enjoyed today's program, We hope you'll consider making a donation to help keep programs like this possible, as well as to further the support of the craniofacial community. Thank you.